So that's the thing that most of the viewers here, and me included, I was struggling with this. We're all struggling with this, right? Um, I guess you encountered me because you are interested in self improvement, and you probably are already, I would say, on self on improving yourself, or just at least have thought about it. Now the problem is that if you get into self improvement, you're you're gonna and you're gonna execute it, right? Not just wish for it, but you actually are in self improvement. You're improving yourself. You go into the gym, blah 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 blah. You're getting better. You're getting proud of yourself. So you know what you can do. But now you get off the path of self improvement and you once again follow a hedonistic path, just a very unoriented way of life, just in a anxiety driven, survival state driven way of life. Well, you're going to drift off self improvement. Now, where exactly have you drifted off self improvement? That's a whole discussion in itself. But my point is, you are aware of self improvement. You were in self improvement. You drifted off self improvement. Maybe you got on it again. Maybe you drifted on it again. It's this endless cycle. You couldn't stay on self improvement. And now, what actually happened is your ego and your true self. They're two different things, right? Which they always are. But they are now so separate from each other that you have sort of lost your identity. You don't really know who you are, where you stand, where you should go. Because what happened is you disassociate your ideal with yourself, right? You know what your ideal is, which is the version of you on self improvement. And probably if you are honest to yourself, you know who you actually are. And these two things are not in line, right? And even if you're not in your fullest potential, or you're not completely able to follow your ideal, because that's very hard to do, you still know you are on the path of self improvement, because you're getting better every day and you're making an effort for it. You're making a conscious effort to get better. That's really the key. It's not always about the measurements and the goals and all that. It's about being aware of where you want to go, and that you actually are going in that direction, regardless of the pace, regardless of the volume, regardless of the intensity. You still know you are on the right track. But you fell off the track. But you always think about it. You kind of know, shit, this is where I need to go, this is where I need to go, this is where I need to go. Tomorrow I'm going to change, tomorrow I'm going to change, tomorrow I'm going to change. Once again, the alarm clock went off at 3 a.m. You kept sleeping, the whole day is shit. Your whole self-belief, your whole identity that you have built up from this frustration is crushed once again. Once again, you don't know who you are. You don't know where to go. You are in an endless cycle of building a plan and then destroying the plan immediately. So, in this self-improvement world, we always talk about plan, schedule, write down tasks, write down goals, all of this stuff, which is definitely good. But the problem is, most people don't really know how to execute this so that it actually brings results. Most people are way too messy in their head for that task to be completed well. Just to plan out your life for the next 6 months. Most people are not even able to do that because they're overwhelmed. And they're overwhelmed because they see their ideal, which is not reachable, because their ego is so high, is so big, in order to compensate for all the loss that you had in the past, all the time you wasted, all the drugs you consumed, all the porn you watched. Now you need to make up for that with a higher ideal, so that you actually can still endure the pain that comes with it, because you know, okay, in the future it's not going to be like that, I'm going to change, which hopefully is the case. But the problem is, these unrealistic standards, you're not going to reach all at the same time. You're not going to reach probably 50% of the things you said, because you just have a crazy delusional view of yourself, of your competence, because you need to, how I said, you need to hyper inflate your ego in order to not, totally be crushed. So you need to start, before you write down tasks, before you start scheduling your whole calendar, before you even write down goals, what you actually need to do is you need to find out the reason why you have not already done all the things that you said you were going to do. Because the problem is not you not wanting to change. You want to change, but you can't. It feels like you can't. It's like a blockage. Because you truly are still living in this identity crisis of knowing who you actually are. And then your rational brain, well, being realistic and not directly telling it to you, but giving you a subtle feeling of you can't do it. You don't believe in yourself. It's not manageable. And your emotional part inside of your brain, your limbic system, is gonna be angry, it's gonna be frustrated, it's gonna be like, no, I can't, it has to work, I know it works. Maybe it does for a couple of days, maybe it does for a couple of weeks, but eventually you will get off track, and that's okay. And then you get on track once again. But that's another topic. The topic right now is you having unrealistic expectations. That makes you frustrated. That gives you a feeling of negativity and inner, unfulfillment. Maybe depressed even. And then once again, you fill the holes with hedonistic pleasures, and then once you're fed up with this, well, you're gonna set new goals, and then you fail again, and then you're gonna do the whole shit again. You're gonna be hedonistic, you're gonna say fuck all this, I'm gonna start new, build a plan, not able to execute because it's just way too crazy, hedonistic path, and it's just a spiral. And trust me, I have been on this exact spiral for years. And what was the turning point that actually made a change is just questioning myself completely. And I went into some very dark little fucking cells in my brain. I went into some dark rooms where I didn't want to enter, but I knew I had to face the truth. The truth was, I was addicted to hedonistic pleasures, and even though I knew what I wanted to do, I wasn't following the path, and I actually had no clear vision because I didn't really engage enough on my purpose for me to have a clear idea of where I want to go, which made my brain anxious. And this anxiety produced a lot of stress. And then once again, I was stressed and I wanted to get rid of the stress. And the quickest cure to that is distraction, hedonistic pleasures. And then you're there once again. So, what was the turning point? As I said before, and I know it sounds very vague and not really fine, and I'm gonna sit down and actually make a protocol out of this, structure the whole thing a bit more. This is just straight out of my brain right now. What you need to do is true self-reflection, being completely honest with yourself. Where do you stand? Where do you want to go? And then look at where you are. Okay? Look at all the bad habits you have. Look at all the times you you hit the snooze button in the morning. Look at all the times you missed training. Look at all the times you didn't message your girlfriend because you were stoned and you forgot, even though she just likes to, hear a good night from you or whatever. It goes dark, man. It goes deep. Trust me. If you start to line out all the things that you did wrong, you're going to realize what a prick you actually are. And that hurts. But now you see that pain is exactly what you need to do the right step. Because that pain is showing you, okay, we did something wrong, pal. We need to do something else. And then before you slip off back into a hedonistic place where you're just gonna distract yourself from all of this, because this is really the main pandemic that we have nowadays. People are being unfulfilled, going to the job, hating the job, coming home, and then their psyche needs to make up for all of the bullshit that happened in the day. That's why they fill their evenings with hedonism. They fill their evenings with being in a bar, drinking a bunch of beers, watching football, going out clubbing, fapping 3 times in a row, all these things. Most people do only work, come home, consume. Sleep, work, come home, consume. Of course, we're not fulfilled because you're not producing anything of value. You're not even producing anything miserable. You're not producing anything. And of course, that feels like shit, but you don't know why you feel like shit. Well, you actually know, but you don't want to question it. That's why you distract yourself. It's this endless loophole. What you need to do is to look at yourself. Look who you actually are. And then look at your ideal, right? And then you need to compare. Do I do this already? Do I do this already? What could I do to change that? But also, make sure that your ideal is attainable, is manageable. Don't go super ego. Don't go, I'm gonna be Mike Tyson and blah blah. You know it's bullshit. You just want to feel good about yourself. That's why you're feeding yourself with these ego-driven thoughts and yeah, I'm gonna be the best and yeah, I'm gonna change and it's just chatter. It's just mental masturbation. You need to really identify what is wrong with you. Then, first of all, try to fix on that. And I'm not saying, okay, I'm wanking off too much. What should I do? Just don't wank off anymore. That's not gonna work. What you should do is, okay, whenever I feel the urge to masturbate, first of all, you're going to have awareness, right? Maybe the first week, you're not even going to not fap. The goal is not even to not fap. The goal is to identify the triggers. And then you can go fap if you want. But trust me, that's the funny thing. If you start to become aware about this, so I'm not saying don't fap, just be aware about it. For 1 week, be aware about every time you fap, maybe track the times you fucking fap. And because his numbers don't lie, right? Like 4 times a day, what the fuck, man? Right? So be aware. Okay, every time I sit in front of the screen and I actually don't know what to do, or I'm bored, or it's too challenging, it's a stress response, now I want to fap. Just identify that. Just be there like, okay, now I feel the urge to fap. Why is that? Maybe because I'm stressed, maybe because I'm bored, maybe because I just don't want to continue working. Okay, go on then. Then you can go fapping. But you will see, that's what I wanted to say before, is actually it's not gonna be enjoyable, because you know I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do. You are actually aware of it, and then you can, as I said, do it. Trust me, you're not gonna enjoy it, and once you're done, you're gonna be like kind of pissed off. Like, why did I just do this? I knew from the beginning it was wrong. I still did it, and now just do this like 5 times, 7 times. Do it for 1 week, and you're gonna feel so shitty about yourself that you're just gonna be fed up, and trust me, you're just gonna quit. Maybe you're gonna slip up every couple of days. Okay, that's way fucking better than saying I'm not gonna fucking jerk off anymore. I'm like semen retention forever, and then you're gonna fail on day 3, and then your whole identity is crushed. Your whole vision of the future is all done. You always just take a glass, like you have a glass in hand, and it has some potential. Like you pour in some water, you pour in some water, you pour in some water. You get better at it, right? And then what happens is when you fail and you have this hyperinflated ego, you just crush the whole fucking glass to the floor. And it's just all done. And then you have to start reinventing yourself. Once again, that takes so much more energy than just being realistic and being humble with the process, right? First week, the goal is not to quit. The goal is to just become aware about every time you do it, right? And this is basic behavioral therapy, right? I'm not a psychologist or anything, but this is just something that you pick up when you're confronted with these things. Because trust me, I was. And what changed for me was just being more humble, not punishing myself so hard for if I fail, because I still know I'm on the right track, you know. And then the third thing is to track your progress. That's really how you can get out of this cycle of inconsistency. That's a very, 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 I think, very big point that a lot of people miss. Because we always just want to focus on the action. Well, it makes sense. You want to focus on the action. What can you actually do? Or some people want to focus too much on the goal setting and the scheduling and everything, but then they don't execute. It's actually the same thing. It's all mental masturbation. If you're gonna execute it that way, it's good. If you're not gonna execute, probably it's not that it was wasted, but maybe you should rethink your abilities. So humbleness, being humble, that's a very, very, very big part of it all.